My name is Christy Morrison, your Tahoe Truckee real estate expert. Today I am talking to Todd Cooker. He's a homeowner insurance specialist. We're going to talk about the best ways to obtain fire insurance. We're going to talk about the issues facing our buyers and our sellers right now up here in the Tahoe Truckee area. And we're going to talk about the best way to go about getting affordable, if there is such a thing, fire insurance. So Todd, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, so give us a little background on what's going on with homeowner insurance here in the Tahoe Truckee area.
So as I'm sure you and your buyers and sellers all are realizing is insurance has gotten much tighter up there. Obviously, the last couple of fire seasons have been historically catastrophic, and that has caused the insurance industry to really tighten up. That is specifically tightened in higher brush communities. So Truckee, Tahoe, Donner, South Lake Tahoe, the whole area up there is definitely harder to insure in than it ever has been. And so you might have buyers or sellers dealing with non-renewals from companies that they've had insurance with for 20 years, or new buyers having issues finding the right insurance carrier, broker, that sort of thing. So numerous different things that are happening, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Excellent. So what would you recommend a buyer do before they come up and look at properties up here?
I would recommend before they start the process to, one, be realistic in terms of the insurance market, and potentially even reaching out to an insurance professional who specializes in the area before they start the shopping process. Similarly to how I'm sure they would maybe reach out to a mortgage person to check on rates, and to a realtor to check on, property values and things like that. It's one of the things that they would just want to have an idea of before they get going. A lot of them, it could be a secondary home or a vacation property, or maybe not their primary home. So to compare what they have in, say, San Diego or the Bay Area or something like that, it's not going to look like that. So it's not always good to just say, oh, well, I pay $800 a year for homeowners, here in the Bay and downtown in my condo. That's what I should pay there. So maybe starting that conversation a little earlier on, just to make sure that everyone is comfortable and they're informed really moving forward.
Yes. What I see a lot of, what happens to a lot of our buyers is they originally start with their current insurance policy holder, State Farms, AAA, the companies that have their primary residence in the Bay Area. And I often see them go to that insurance broker who they've been working with for probably 20 years. And then they get a lot of negative feedback as to how there's no insurance up here. It's going to cost 5 times as much, and they really shouldn't do it. What would you say after a buyer goes through that experience?
Sure. Well, it's an unfortunate experience, and it is something that happens frequently. For many years, in certain areas, it was simpler to just say, hey, I want to buy this home. I'll just call my fill in the blank, my farmer's agent, my home estate agent, whoever, and get a quote. And potentially maybe they could have, years ago, but right now that's definitely not the market that we're in. And so you're correct. What they get a lot of time is misinformation. Most insurance companies that people know of off the top of their head, Allstate, Farmers, State Farm, they're called captive carriers, meaning they only have one solution. Their agents are only allowed to sell them one option, which is a Farmers policy or an Allstate policy. They can't find them the best thing for them. So sometimes, again, it's not necessarily bad information. A lot of times it's misinformation. So they might tell them it is impossible to insure up there, or it's going to be 5 times the rate or 10 times the rate, which might be true to them. But again, the problem is basically just not working with a specialist who has access to these types of insurance policies in these communities. We have dozens of carriers who still write in the Tahoe, Truckee, Donner area. And so it's more so an access issue than that's, a true statement. Also too, when you don't speak with a professional or direct them to someone who is knowledgeable in the area, they might turn to the internet, and it's kind of like, WebMDing, when you're sick or something like that. You're always going to find certain types of articles out there. So again, just speaking to a professional to get the real sort of nuts and bolts of what it's actually going to look like. And again, because it's not that we are saying it's going to be very easy or, $50 a month to insure up here, but we can be realistic and set proper expectations. So everyone's time is respected. So the buyer, the seller, the realtor, everyone involved has a really good idea and they know they're getting the best thing from the beginning.
Another pitfall that I see buyers get into is they call all the insurance brokers that they know. And what I'm finding is that after talking to a bunch of different brokers, they start getting declined on normal companies that insure up here. Is that really a thing?
That can be a thing. A lot of times what happens up here in these areas, because they're a little more rural or, a higher fire risk, what happens is the insurance companies want to individually underwrite. And all that means is that it's a human going through and looking at the property and deciding if they want to insure it. And during that process, if a client comes to me, my recommendation is always, if they're early on enough in the process or they're trusting enough to just say, hey, can I have just 1 week where I'm the only insurance broker that's working on this for you? And the reason for that is when I make these, introductions to the carriers, I'm advocating for the client. So I'm looking up things like distance to a fire hydrant and fire department and average response times and all of these things behind the scenes to sort of sell the account. And so when I'm talking to an underwriter, I'm saying, I speak for the client. They were willing to put in a burglar or fire alarm if that would, seal the deal or that sort of a thing. So we really are advocating for them. And the problem is if I'm saying that, and then right behind me, they're getting 5 submissions from 5 other different brokers, and everyone's using different information that they got from different websites online. And maybe some people are asking the customer and some are not. They're getting so much different information that they get concerned, and instead of trying to figure out who's actually in charge, they'll simply decline. And so they'll say, this is, I'm getting too much information here. It's not all accurate. Something's not adding up. So they'll just, instead just decide to decline. So in a lot of cases, it might sound counterintuitive to the client to only have one person involved, but as long as the one person is checking with 10, 15, 20 different carriers, they're still getting that service, that real look at the whole marketplace. They're just getting the best version of it, as opposed to having a bunch of insurance agents bump into each other and getting a bunch of declinations.
Right. Okay, great. Perfect. Well, I really appreciate your time, Todd. What's the best way for a buyer to get a hold of you?
I would say to have them reach out. They can reach out to my office if they want to call in, and whether it's a buyer, seller, agent, someone just looking for information, whatever the case is, we definitely want to serve the people up in these communities. Our principal agent is from down the street, so we want to serve you all. The best way would be our office phone number, which is 858-386-4443. Again, 858-386-4443, or my direct email address is also fine. It's my first name, Todd, TODD, @PAC, PAC, insure, INSURE.com.